Today, we are cracking open a really fascinating document called the Scientific Indictment. Now, it's not every day you come across a text that claims to have the unified theory of, well, pretty much everything. We're talking consciousness, frequency, and a silent, ancient war. We're going to break down its core claims, and trust me, they are nothing short of extraordinary.
Okay, so right out of the gate, the document hits you with this incredibly bold statement. It's basically saying, hey, put aside what you think you know. This isn't just a story, this is a report. It really sets a serious, almost chilling tone for what's about to unfold, which is a complete reimagining of our reality.
So at the very heart of this document is this really radical idea. What if human history isn't just a series of random events? What if it's actually all part of a hidden war, a Gnostic war, fought for the ultimate prize, control over our very consciousness?
So you gotta ask, who are the players in this war? Well, according to the source, on one side you've got the Guardians. They're all about coherence, liberation, and something the document calls Gnosis, which is basically a direct personal pipeline to spiritual knowledge. Then on the other side you have the Archons. These are described as a parasitic intelligence that's just dead set on control and creating chaos. This classic good versus evil framework, it's really the foundation for everything else we're about to unpack.
So if there's a war, where's the battlefield? Well, according to this indictment, it's inside each and every one of us. The first line of attack is on our own biology, which the document describes as not just flesh and blood, but as a piece of actual divine hardware.
Okay, and this is where things get really, really interesting. The document zooms in on this one specific number, 7.83 hertz. This is the Schumann resonance, the natural electromagnetic frequency of our planet. The document beautifully calls it the heartbeat of Gaia. And as we're about to see, this concept is absolutely crucial.
And look, this isn't just some poetic metaphor. The document argues that our bodies are literally built to tune into this frequency, kind of like a biological radio. It even points to research from the HeartMath Institute, suggesting our own heart rhythms can synchronize with the Earth's magnetic field. This connection, it claims, isn't just nice to have, it's absolutely essential for our health and well-being.
This gives us a fantastic picture of the document's model of the body. So try to think of your heart not just as a pump, but as a Gnostic engine, this incredibly powerful generator of energy. And the chakras? Well, they're presented as biological transformers, taking this high-frequency energy from the universe and stepping it down into something our bodies can actually use. Nerve impulses and hormones. It's this amazing blend of ancient wisdom and almost modern engineering language.
So, if our body is the hardware, then what's the operating system? It's our mind, of course. And according to the indictment, that's where the next phase of this war is being waged. It's a psychological war designed to control our very perception and, maybe most importantly, to disconnect us from our own divine hardware.
Now, the document points to things we know about, like the infamous MKUltra program, as a pretty blatant attempt to just break the human mind. But it also highlights more subtle and maybe way more effective weapons, like a 1967 CIA memo that allegedly weaponized the term conspiracy theory. What was the goal? To make anyone who dares to question the official story seem, well, crazy. It's a brilliant and frankly terrifying psychological tactic.
And now we really get to the heart of it. The document claims that if you want to control a population, you have to control its culture. The argument is that our modern culture, with all of its chaos and division, isn't some accident. No, it's been engineered. It's a weapon.
So who are the alleged architects of this cultural warfare? The document points to a group of intellectuals known as the Frankfurt School. They took the ideas of Marx, blended them with Freud, and created something called critical theory. The source alleges this was never just an academic exercise. It was a blueprint for dismantling Western society from the inside.
Okay, this one's a little dense, so let's walk through it together. The indictment claims their ideas became weapons. So first, you've got the culture industry. The claim is that our media, our music, our movies, is all intentionally designed with these repetitive, simple formulas to keep us kind of passive, almost childlike, so we don't think too deeply. Then there's the authoritarian personality. The source claims this was a tool used to basically pathologize traditional values, like the nuclear family, making them seem like a kind of psychological problem. And finally, repressive tolerance. This is presented as the philosophical justification for what some might call cancel culture today. This idea that you have to be intolerant towards certain views to achieve progress. Yeah, it's a lot to wrap your head around, but the document is basically saying these were all tools designed to just dissolve the bonds that hold society together.
This brings us to the so-called war on drugs, which this document completely reframes as a direct war on gnosis.
The claim here is that it was never, ever about public health. Instead, it was a strategic, multi-pronged attack. First, suppress the Gnostic tools, we're talking psychedelics, that the counterculture was using to expand consciousness and question authority. Second, use those drug laws to criminalize and dismantle anti-war movements. Third, create a perfect cover for intelligence agencies to fund their black ops. And finally, make sure people stay dependent on the pharmaceutical system instead of exploring natural or spiritual paths to healing. So according to this document, it was an all-out campaign against our spiritual and intellectual freedom.
And the indictment goes even further. It takes the tragic story of the 27 Club and reframes it not as some sad coincidence, but as a series of political assassinations, a decapitation strike aimed at the counterculture's most powerful and influential voices. This, it claims, was all part of a larger war on beauty, replacing the vibrant, consciousness-expanding art and music of the 60s with soulless, corporate-produced content and cold, brutalist architecture. And why? Well, according to the document, the entire goal was to crush our spirits and keep our energetic frequency as low as possible.
So, we've walked through this alleged war on our bodies, our minds, and our entire culture. But it all leads to one massive question. What's the end game? What is the ultimate motive for all of this control? The answer, according to the indictment, is probably the most shocking claim in the entire document.
The document poses the very question that's probably been hanging in the air this whole time. Why? Why go to all this trouble? And the answer isn't what you'd typically expect. It's not about power. It's not about money. It's not even about control for its own sake. No, it's about something much more fundamental.
The answer, the document claims, is food. It introduces this concept called Loosh, which is described as the emotional energy that we all produce. And it alleges that these Archons are parasites that literally feed on our negative emotions, our fear, our anger, our sorrow. We are, in this model, their food source.
So if you follow that logic, then our world isn't a prison. It's a farm, a factory farm. And all the things that keep us miserable, the constant fear in the news, the endless outrage on social media, the perpetual wars, they're not bugs in the system. They are the system's primary feature. They're designed to make us produce as much of this loosh as possible.
But then, right at the very end, the document throws this massive curveball. What if this isn't a prison we were forced into, but a gymnasium that we designed for ourselves, a kind of cosmic training ground for our souls to evolve? And if that's the case, the final question isn't how do we escape, it's why did we build the prison in the first place? A really mind-bending thought to end on, and one that completely shifts the narrative from being a victim to being empowered.